Hello, everyone. Welcome to COVID-19 horticulture. Do you love my face mask? You know, it looks like a tropical plant. Well, since no one's in the greenhouse, and don't you love the learning center out in the greenhouse? We have missed you, missed you, missed you. I've missed you, and I know that you're all itching to get out into the garden, and that's where we can get our escape from all this. Thank you so much for signing up for the spring garden preparation. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to pack into 1 hour, and then we're going to save the questions till the last 30 minutes. So if you type in your questions, we'll answer all of those. And we got to all of them yesterday, and we'll get to them today if you want. If we don't get to them, I'll answer them by email later. But thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I hope you all got the outline. We put that together, and we're going to start with the lawns. Now, people see their lawns first, and they're so worried about their lawns. So the first thing you want to do is check to see if you had any salt damage. And that's salt spraying up from the streets. You usually see it on the edges, at the curbs, on the driveway, next to the sidewalks. If you're seeing that, the best thing to use is the garden gypsum. And it's right over here. They asked me to pick it up and show you the product. This is garden gypsum. And gypsum actually is calcium sulfate. Calcium is the most reactive element in the periodic table. And so when you sprinkle this on the spots where the salt is, it goes in, the calcium breaks away from the sulfate and binds with the salt. Then when you water or when it rains, it washes all the salt away. You can do this in all your gardens areas and in the lawns. You can also do this on dog spots. What it does is it binds with the uric acid and washes it away. So you alleviate those problems. Now, the next thing is it's time to fertilize your lawns. And when the soil temperature gets warm enough, and it's 48 to 52 right now, and the lawn tells you when it's ready to start growing, it starts greening up. And you may have noticed that in your own lawn. So you want to use your fertilizer. Now, if you don't have any weeds, and you haven't had any weeds, then the best one to use is the Espoma lawn fertilizer. And you know what? If you excuse me, I'm not going to pick up that 30-pound bag and bring it over here. We call it the red bag. You can see it over here under this container. It's the Espoma red bag, and it's a wonderful lawn fertilizer. Now, if you've had weeds, and all of us have weeds, then the next best thing to use is it's a pre-emergent with a fertilizer in it, and it's the Scott's Step 1 for seeding. All right, you're gonna see how I've been working out all winter. Okay, look, this big bag, this is the Scott's Step 1 for seeding. Okay, what's great about it is it's got a 24-22-0 formulation. So you can use a seed and you can put grass seed down. It won't prevent any grass seed from germinating, but I'm gonna set this down. But what you'll do, sit. Okay, and what it does, it has mesotrione in it, and mesotrione actually will kill creeping bent grass. It burns the chlorophyll out. So when you use it, you can go in the week later and you'll see all the weeds and all the grassy weeds especially look white. It's so much fun because you can really see what you've done. So I highly recommend that. That's what I use on my own lawn. And then what you'll do is your timing is for your fertilizers, you want to do those 4 times a year. April 15th, that's today. And then the second one is Memorial Day into the first 2 weeks in June. The third one is Labor Day into the first 2 weeks of September. And the last one is on Halloween. We call that the winterizer. So if you want the best lawn in the neighborhood, that's how you fertilize. Now, for other weeds, you want to use just a spray weed killer. And right now, because it's gotten cool again, you want to use the Weed Beater Ultra. I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me, but you can use the Weed Beater Ultra. And then after Memorial Day, you just spot spray the weeds. Unless you have more than 30% of weeds in your garden, then you'll use a weed and feed. But that'll be the next talk that we have. So right now, then you just wait for that lawn to green up. Now, I always tell people, fertilize first before you realize if you have to do any seeding, because once you fertilize, all of those little dormant grass plants have the capability of growing 3 inches in each direction. So if your spots aren't bigger than 6 inches, after you fertilize and wait 2 weeks, you'll see it fills in. If you have larger areas that are bare, that's when you want to use the grass seed. And by using the spot step 1 for seeding, you can still use your grass seed. Now, and of course, our Chalet seed is wonderful. And we have it in 1 pound bags. The 1 pound bags, we have it in a sunny mix, a sun and shade mix, a shady mix, and then this is one that you're not going to find a lot of places. This is our extreme dense shade mix. So if you've got shady areas under trees, particularly, this is wonderful because it holds up to foot traffic. This is what's used on sports fields because it holds up to foot traffic, but it also holds up to the traffic under the ground from the roots of trees. And the magic ingredient of this is Poa supina. So really worth it, and people that have this. So always, if you haven't had good luck with grass seed, and that's other companies of grass seed, try the Chalet private label. It's put together by a company that makes grass seed for golf courses. So, and it's based on 2 years of the previous testing of the diseases that they see. So you have a very disease-resistant variety that is, and these varieties are selected for Northeast Illinois and Southeast Wisconsin. You'll have really good success with these. Now, the magic people always want to know what to cover them with. Don't use peat moss. It holds too much water and can drown the plants. And then if it dries out, it doesn't hydrate quickly enough. So the best thing is to just keep it not covered and then just water it lightly every day. It's the only time we ever tell you to water every day. Water lightly every day for 21 to 28 days and do it late in the afternoon, and that keeps it consistently moist, because if those little seedlings germinate and they dry out and ever one day, any day, they die, you have to start over. So keep it consistently moist. When it's cool like this, in the morning, the dew points are high enough so you don't have to worry about watering twice a day. Once it warms up, then water twice a day, okay? So now you're gonna have a great lawn. And then the next thing that we start looking at is the planting beds. Now, I splurge and have somebody come and do a spring cleanup. And my beds were all neat and tidy. And so what I come in with afterwards is it's a pre-emergent to keep the beds from having any more weeds in them. And that's preen. And preen comes in 2 forms. It comes in a synthetic form, which is in this canister right here. And it's cool. It has this neat shaker tongue where you just do this and you shake it. It's just shake it out. It makes it real easy to apply. And this is actually trifurulin. And what I love about this, and you can see on the label, that this is enough to cover 900 square feet. And this for 12 weeks, 3 whole months. And you just sprinkle this over the surface and it keeps, well, what happens is the seeds germinate, but it kills the feeder root, and then no root, no shoot. So no weeds come. Now there's also an organic form of this. It's corn gluten meal. But it only covers 250 square feet, and you have to do it every 8 weeks. But if you really want to, use that organic, it works. And it also has a fertilizer component. We also sell it in bags, like a 5-pound bag. It doesn't have that neat the shaker case for it though. So now after doing that, the next thing, when you're working with your annual beds and your vegetable beds, you want to make sure you've got a good mulch on them. And we have our Chalet Mulches. We have our Chalet, this is our Chalet leaf mulch right here. Okay, that comes in a 1 cubic foot bag. And then we also have the Chalet Compost, and that's the leaf mulch composted a little bit more, also in a 1 cubic foot bag. Now, then if you want to use a bark mulch, my favorite is the pine bark mulch, and you can see the wonderful consistency of it. It comes in a 2 cubic foot bag. And if you're going to spread it 2 inches deep, and that's what we recommend, 2 inches deep, then a 2 cubic foot bag would cover 12 square feet, so 4 by 3. This is our Cottonwood Compost, and the Cottonwood Compost is like a hybrid cross between a bark mulch and a leaf compost. And again, it's a 2 cubic foot bag. What I love about the Cottonwood Compost is that it will lower the pH of our high pH soils. So this is what I use on my garden. I love this. So you're going to spread that 1 inches or 2 inches over your beds, and then through it. Or if you want to add organic matter, they say to add 2 inches to the top, and then dig it in to the top 6 to 8 inches, and that gives you a 20% organic matter, and that's ideal. That's absolutely ideal. Now, when you're getting ready in your vegetable garden to plant, you want to use an excellent fertilizer. My favorite are the Dr. Earth brands. They're made from the fish waste industry, and this one, oh, I didn't bring the tomato, vegetable, and herb. Oh, I can't believe I didn't do that. But this is the rose and flower. Okay, the rose and flower, and what I want you to notice is the 462 on that, and this is great for the beds for your annuals. And it's 1 cup for every 10 square feet. So if you have a row that's 5 feet long and 2 feet wide, you're going to take a half a cup and sprinkle it on one side of the plant, take a half a cup and sprinkle on the other side of the plant. And it lasts for 60 days, every 2 months. You're only doing it every 2 months. The Bud and Bloom Booster, there's Bud and Bloom Booster. Some people also call it Flower Girl, but I love this. It's 3% nitrogen, 9% phosphorus, which goes right to the flowers, and 4% potassium. And again, you want to use 1 cup every 10 square feet. And this is what keeps hydrangeas looking their best. So I'll talk about this a little bit later also. Okay, when we've got the, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's keep moving on here. Okay, now the frost hardy annuals, and that's really appropriate after seeing the snow this morning when we woke up. Oh my, the only thing that helped me yesterday when it was so cold was my friend Tracy Butler, the weather anchor, announced yesterday morning that it's going to be cold with snow flurries, but a year ago we had 6 inches of snow. So it wasn't so bad yesterday. Today it was a little depressing going out and having to scrape my car off, but it's melting. So if you're going to use frost hardy annuals, you want to make sure you have pansies, violas, snapdragons, stock, ranunculus, sweet peas, sweet alyssum, nemesia, diacia, they also call that twin spur, dianthus, bacopa, lobelia, and osteospermum. Check our webpage because we have many of these. They're coming in and selling out and coming in and selling out. So check our webpage on a regular basis so you can see what we have. Now, for frost hardy vegetables, which we say you can plant those like the 7th of April or the 15th of April, things like lettuce, cabbage, kale, spinach, onions, Swiss chard, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and the root crops, like beets and radishes and carrots. So you can get those started right now. You want to hold off though on anything like a tomato, pepper, corn, squash. All those are they need to be warm season crops. So you don't plant those until the frost-free date, which is May the 15th. It's May the 15th. So okay, now we're ready to move into the perennials, our perennials. What's great is they're waking up and coming out, now. The first thing you want to do is get your pruning shears, and prune back any of anything you didn't prune back in the fall. Now, you all love Tony Fulmer, our chief horticultural officer here, and he's a gardener that cleans up everything and cuts everything down in the fall, so he can relax during the spring and just enjoy watching things come up. I like to keep plants up to help with the wildlife and to help with insects overwintering, butterflies and things like that. So I'm a busy person this time of year. So if you need a good pair of pruning shears, look at the Dram. Dram is a company that usually sells water products like hoses and sprinklers and my favorite, hose-in sprinkler with the thumb control. But they have a wonderful pruning shear that keeps sharp and is easy to work with. It's got the lock mechanism. So have a good pair of pruning shears. Another way, so you're going to cut any perennials that you didn't cut down last fall, and that means you're going to cut them to about 2.5 to 3 inches the stems from the ground. You always have a source about where they are. So, cut all those down and, and get rid of them. The ones that really need a lot of work are the evergreen perennials right now. Things like Virginia and ferns and hellebores and heucheras. So cut all that old foliage, making room for the new foliage to come up. Now, this is the time to put your hoops over things like peonies. Don't let them get too tall, because you just want to take the hoop and stick it over the plant right now, so that you don't have to tie them up to get them to fit inside the hoop. Another great one that I love are the grids. Set those up now so the plant can grow up through them and support them, and they won't flop over in the growing season. So if you do this now, you won't regret later, oh, why didn't I do that earlier? All right, now the fertilizers for perennials are, again, the bud and bloom. Also the flower tone from the Espoma companies. Holly Tone is another one of our favorite fertilizers from them, because it has that 5% sulfur in it. I'm going to talk about this more when we're talking about the woody plants that love Holly Tone. But they need to be used every 30 days. And so it's an excellent product, and a lot of people like those even better than the Dr. Earth. This is the time to remember if you had any diseases or insects on your plants last year. And now is the time to spray the preventatives for the fungicides. So like peony measles, peonies gets the Rhizoctonia stem blight and the brown blotches on the leaves. Now is the time to spray a preventative fungicide. And my favorite fungicide is the Immunox. And Immunox comes in a spray bottle, and you spray it on to the point of drip off, just when it's starting to drip off the leaves, and then it stays in those leaves for 14 days, even if it rains. And what it does is it prevents the fungus from getting into the leaves. The way the diseases happen is when the leaves are baby leaves, they don't have that waxy cuticle like the mature leaves do. So the fungal spores, they get released as the temperatures get warmer and as we get wetter conditions. The spore lands on the leaf. If it stays wet like overnight for 4 hours, the spore germinates, grows into the tissue, and then it takes 6 weeks to 8 weeks before the lesion or the spot shows up. By that time, you can't do anything about it. You spray again to prevent secondary reinfection, but to prevent it from even getting started, this is the time. So as those peonies, my peonies are now out of the ground about this far. So you want to spray. We also have it in the concentrate. This is a 16-ounce container. It's 1 ounce per gallon. We have this wonderful, that Bonite has these wonderful measuring cups, so you can just measure it and then pour it right in your tank sprayer. Or I love this. This is the hose-in sprayer, and see, this is called the dial-in spray. And you hook it to the hose here, and then of course the hose is attached to the house. Turn the water on. Before you do that though, you want to fill this tank with the product. You don't dilute it with water, it does it for you. So I add the whole bottle to this. It's 16 ounces. It only comes to about this far. And then look at the great draw tube. It has a mesh end so it never gets clogged. It's really securely attached, so you don't have to worry about it ever not drawing the concentrate up. And then the way this works is you screw this on, and then set the dial. And see the dial right here? You just set it. I have it set on 1 ounce, but you can adjust it depending on what the recommendation is on the label. And so you get it set, and then hook it to the hose is hooked up. And this is the on off right here. You just turn it on and it sprays out of here. And it mixes it through the Venturi principle. As the water flows past through the aperture that's been set, it mixes it exactly 1 ounce per gallon. So when this whole thing is empty, that means that you have sprayed 16 gallons of the fungicide on your plants. There's 3 settings on here. There's this one. See how easy it is to turn it? This is like a watering can. So if you just have one plant and you just want to drench it, that's perfect. Then if you have a planting bed, like I like to use this on the Pachysandra, and we're going to get to the ground cover section in a minute. But when you set it on this fan, it sprays about 4 feet wide and out 5 feet. So you can spray all the way out on the ground cover beds. Now, this is also wonderful because if you have trees you want to spray, the round opening will spray up to 25 feet. So you start at the top of the tree and just spray back and forth, north side, east side, south side, west side, let it drip, drip down, spray to the point of drip off, just starting to drip off, and then it's absorbed in and stays in for 14 days, even if it rains. A lot of the other products, you have to run out and respray every time it rains, but this is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. Okay, so now you've protected from the fungal problems, and then the insecticides, the insect problems. Okay, one of the biggest problems that we've seen on 2 of our favorite landscape plants, boxwood and also viburnums. The boxwood get 2 different insects. They get a leaf miner, and that just came in the area 5 years ago. And it's this little, looks like a little gnat. It lays the eggs, the larvae stay inside the leaf all year, eating the center of the mesophyll out. And then over the winter, all those leaves turn like a golden tan color. And then when the new growth comes, you know, it grows out and covers the damage, but those larvae hatch, they fly out, and then the adults lay the eggs again. And then when those eggs, those larvae burrow their way in, if you sprayed with a systemic insecticide, they get killed and it stops the problem. And this is the best product for that is this 24-hour insecticide, and BioAdvanced invented it. And what I love about this, you measure the height of the plant, and you have a handy measuring cup. See, that goes up to 8 ounces. So however tall the plant is, it's the number of ounces you measure and add to a gallon of water, and then you pour it right where the trunk goes into the ground. That's called the root collar. And that stays, it's absorbed up in the plant, depending on the size of the plant, 5 days to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. It stays in for 1 full year, 12 months. Excellent. We also have it in this other company, the Bonide company. We actually carry that in a gallon, and it doesn't come with the handy measuring cup, but that's okay. But it's they're both excellent products. Now, there's another product that is in the same company, and so that takes care of the insects. The Immunox takes care of the fungus. For things like roses and flower beds, there's this other product that is phenomenal. It's my favorite. Okay, it's called the BioAdvanced All-in-One Rose and Flower Care. And you for like a rose, you measure ounces right there, add it to a quart of water, and pour it right in the ground. You could do that today on your roses, and it would be wonderful. It has a fertilizer, a 9-14-9, so you've got wonderful phosphorus to get beautiful, beautiful flowers. And then it has the systemic fungicide and the systemic insecticide. So tebuconazole is the fungicide, and imidacloprid is the insecticide. It is phenomenal. It stays in the plant for 6 weeks. So you do it today, April 15, 6 weeks from today, June 1, and 6 weeks from that, July 15. You've taken care of all the problems and the fertilizer for the whole growing season. Incredible. It makes life easy and makes your garden beautiful. It's so great. Okay, so these are these favorite guys. Okay, now let's keep moving. All right. Oh, the other thing for the perennials is if you've had slug problems on your slugs or ligularia, those ground hugging plants. All right, slugs trick us every year. They stay dormant and they don't wake up until the soil temperatures get above 65. All right, so that's the end of May. So I always tell people, get prepared with your Sluggo, and it comes in a 1 pound canister. We have it in like a 3 pound, and also up to I think a 10 pound. And these granules, and the company that invented this control, oh, I can get real close today. See, it says Neudorf. See that logo, that the sunflower logo? It's a company in Germany, brilliant scientists. They realized that iron phosphate causes slugs. It causes them to stop eating. It kills their appetite. So if you sprinkle this granular around wherever you've had slug problems, and this works in vegetable gardens as well as your ornamental gardens, sprinkle this down May 15th, and then when the slugs wake up, this is like breakfast in bed for them. These are particles that are made from flour, sugar, and water with the iron phosphate embedded in it. Slugs can't resist the flour and the sugar. They eat it. The iron phosphate kills their appetite. They stop damaging everything immediately, and then they crawl away and you never see them again. So much better than trying to put out, beer and having them drowned in beer. You got to clean it out and get rid of them. This is incredible. Now, we all use too much of this. This 1 pound jar is enough for 1,000 square feet. So that translates into 1 teaspoon every 3 square feet. That's not a lot. I always overuse this because I hate slugs, but you don't have to use that much. But be prepared for it. Now, the other thing, since I'm talking about being prepared, when your perennials are coming up, and that includes your bulbs, your bulbs, the tulips and the crocus, all right, rabbits and deer. They're the gardener's worst enemy. And rabbits and deer are responsible for more people quitting gardening than any other reason that's out there. You invest all this money and these animals eat thousands of dollars out of your garden. So what you want to do is you want to use a repellent. The number one of all is plant skeed, and I don't say it right. It was invented in the Scandinavian countries. The headquarters is up in Vancouver. And this is phenomenal. It's a blood-based product. It's made from bovine and porcine blood. It is sterilized. You don't have to worry about any blood diseases. And you shake this up. Because it's blood-based, it will coagulate. So when you use the sprayer, save this top of the bottle. When you use the sprayer, take the sprayer out after you finish using it, rinse it out with hot water, and then put this cap back on. And it lasts a lot longer. It won't clog up. But this is wonderful. It does discolor the foliage when you spray it. When you first spray it out, it sort of has a brown tone, but after it dries for 24 to 48 hours, it dries clear, kind of shiny and clear. It smells awful. We humans just can't tolerate it. So save this for your last chore before you leave the garden for the day. And then when you come back 24 hours later, you don't smell it. And you want to do it when it's not raining for 24 to 48 hours and it dries. Once it dries, it'll stay on the plant, the surface that's been sprayed, for 60 days, and the animals smell it whenever they walk into the yard. So this is the best. Now, what we tell people to do is switch out. If you can switch different products, then it keeps the animals off guard. And the next one is the Repelsol from the Bonide company. And you can see all the animals on here. It's labeled for all those animals. Even armadillos. Isn't that funny? But I laugh about it, but I go down to Arkansas where my dad lived and there's armadillos all over the road. But this is great because you spray it on. What this does, it doesn't kill anything. It just repels the animals because it irritates their nasal passages. It has things like putrefied egg white solids and garlic oil. Cloves really irritate their nose. It has wintergreen oil in it, irritates them. But it really does work. And it's clear. So a lot of people prefer this to the plant skid. When you have cute little flowers like on your pansies and your crocus, I switch to this. Because I just hate to make them look dark. This is excellent. Now, if you've got rabbits, I hate rabbits. And I'm ready to share my grandfather's recipe for Hass and pepper stew. But rabbits have a mechanism that Mother Nature has given them so that the babies don't have a sense of smell or a sense of taste until they become adolescents. So they'll eat through these other repellents. They'll just eat right through them. So that's why if you have really high pressure from rabbits, this is what you need to use. And it's a liquid fence, and it's called dual action rabbit repellent. And it has cinnamon in it, and it has also capsaicin, which is the pepper. And what it does is it burns their mouths. You spray it on the plant. You have to spray it on the foliage. Oh, you'll notice I don't have any of the granular repellents out, because at this time of year, the animals are so hungry, you have to spray the plants to protect them. So you can use the granulars after you've insulted them with the products, but right now you have to spray the plants to protect them. And this is wonderful. Now this you have to spray once a week for the first 2 weeks, and then once every 2 weeks, 2 times, and then after that, once a month. And then once this is empty, switch back to one of these other products. Go back and forth and back and forth. But especially when you see the baby rabbits, you want to use this. And this really does work. And it's money back guarantee. Okay, so, all right, so now, there we go. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. And I'm looking at my time. Ooh, I'm doing really well. Okay, so now the next group, the next area is roses. And I sort of talked about that when I was talking about the rose and flower care. This is good for the roses, and it's also, if you have a flower bed, there's a flower bed recommendation on here. It's 2 ounces. There's that measuring cup again, 2 ounces in a gallon, and then you sprinkle that over a 12 square foot area, so 3 by 4. And then it's taken up in the plants and stays in the plants for those 6 weeks. You can also use this on shrubs, and it's by the foot. So you measure the height of the shrub, and it's 1 ounce per foot. So like it's excellent for boxwood. You have your fertilizer, your fungicide, and your insecticide. And so if a boxwood is 4 foot tall, you do 4 ounces in a gallon and pour it right through the center of the plant so it drenches where the root collar is. So this is great. This is also very good for the viburnums and the viburnum leaf beetles. And again, it's by the foot, and then you pour this in. This lasts 6 weeks. You're probably better off with that with the year round, because you're doing it once and it lasts for the 12 months. I'll get back to that and repeat that. Okay, so now with the roses, this is the time of year to prune them back. And when you're working with roses, you have to be tough like the rosarians. They prune them back because you're dealing with a flowering shrub, and flowering shrubs bloom better on new wood. So you want to cut away as much of that old wood as you can stand. And we usually say to cut down to 3 to 5 stems coming from the ground. And you cut them down to 8 inches to 12 inches. It is really tough to do. If you finally let your roses get large enough, you think, oh, I don't want to cut them away. But believe me, when you cut that old wood away, it pushes and encourages the new wood, and you get so many more flowers. I'm going to use a horticultural term. You're going to be managing your crop when you prune correctly. So don't, and wait until, well, we say April 15th. This is when it's safe to move the mulch, the winter mulch away, and this is the time that you prune, April 15th. Okay, so now you don't want to start fertilizing until you start seeing the buds opening, and you want to wait till there's 3 leaflets, 3 leaves coming on each shoot before you fertilize. Just because if you fertilize too soon, then you make them more susceptible to the fungal problems. Now, the best fertilizer is the rose and flower. The rosarians have switched to this from Dr. Earth, from Rose Tone. Rose Tone's a good one, but again, this lasts 60 days, so you're not running out and applying it so often. The one exception when I say don't fertilize too early is if you're going to use this with the fungicide in it and the insecticide in it, you can use that today and get them started, and they're protected from any problems of the fungal black spot and the early powdery mildew. So again with the roses. Now the next thing. Oh, you do want to be prepared to mulch the roses after the new growth starts. And one of the earth-friendly natural ways to control the black spot. And did you notice that term, earth-friendly natural. Instead of saying organic, we want it, the Neudorf people taught me to teach you to use the term earth-friendly natural, because sulfur is not organic, but it's earth-friendly natural. And you can sprinkle a half a cup to a cup of sulfur underneath each of the roses. And we can get by doing this because our soil is so alkaline, and it will lower the pH of our soil, but it also suppresses any of the fungal activity. Black spot stays in the soil and splashes up on the rose leaves, the new baby rose leaves that are forming, and that's how the disease keeps going on and on and on and on. So use that sulfur, and then mulch on top of it. And for roses, the best mulch is either the Chalet leaf mulch, that's wonderful, or the Cottonwood compost is excellent for roses, and it looks very nice as well. Okay, now the spring flowering bulbs. The first thing you have to do with spring flowering bulbs is protect them, with the repellents. Plant seed, and then the Repelsol and the liquid fence, and then fertilize. Bulbs are heavy feeders. So my favorite bulb food is, again, the Dr. Earth. And look at this. It's got a 14% phosphorus, and that goes to the flowers and also rebuilding the bulb afterwards. When you use this, you're going to be amazed at how much better all your bulbs do going forward. Especially daffodils. They love that. Okay, so now ground cover. Classic ground covers that we have are Pachysandra and Ivies and the Euonymus and Vinca, the Vinca vine. The problem with the Pachysandra is it gets a stem blight that goes back and forth. Boxwood and Pachysandra. And we've had trouble with it when we've had heavy snowfalls. I haven't seen as much of a problem with it this season, but you can spray the Immunox on the plants, and then give them Hollytone. They love getting Hollytone. It's a good balanced fertilizer. And when you see this is the balance over here, it's a 4-3-4, really nice and balanced. And then with that sulfur in it, it's really good for all of our ground covers. So give them that fertilizer now, and spray if you've had problems with the fungal problems. Okay, check the Euonymus. Pick up the stems and look under the leaves for scale, and they're light little attachments on the underneath of the leaves, white and brown. And if you've got that problem, you might want to use some of the insecticides. The systemics are great just to spray on them, or you can also even use this in the flower bed recommendation, and then that protects them for 6 weeks afterwards. Okay, now trees and shrubs. I've sort of been touching on it as I'm talking about the products, but the first thing you want to do with the trees is remove any of the protective paper wrapping or burlap wrapping that you had up over the winter. Get that off now, because as we warm up, it can trap fungus underneath it. If you do have rabbit problems, leave your rabbit guards up until we start getting a lot of green stuff out there. Otherwise, they especially go after the sweet bark trees, like the crab apples, the roses, and the surface berries, the amelanchiers. So protect them from those rabbits. Now, this is the time to check to see if you have any broken branches or diseased branches, and you want to prune those off. And I don't have to get the pruning shears out again to show you that. Then the rule of thumb, if things bloom in the spring, if they bloom before June 1st, be aware that whenever you prune anything this time of year, you're pruning off flower buds. So if you've got a wayward branch that's sticking out over the sidewalk, it's completely okay to do that. You're not taking off all the flower buds, but just be prepared to if you want to resize a shrub, then if you're trimming it back now and it's a flowering, spring flowering one, you're going to cut all the flower buds off. So I usually wait. We usually tell people, wait till after it finishes flowering, and you have 6 weeks of time before the new buds are forming. So like a lilac usually is in bloom Memorial Day, and it's finished by the 2nd week of June. That means you have 6 weeks after that to get it pruned before you'll be pruning off the new buds that are forming for next year. So that's one of the biggest problems on especially lilacs. People come in and prune at the end of the summer, and then they come in and tell me, you know what? My lilacs just haven't flowered in 5 years. My first question is, when are they pruned? So be aware of that. Now, if it's a late summer bloomer, like the hydrangeas, then you can prune and shape them up now, and then they flower on new wood. The new wood forms and forms the flowers from that. So that's but normally you plant a plant in an area where it can grow to its mature size. So you don't have to do a lot of pruning unless it's diseased, damaged, or if you've got a branch growing out over the sidewalk. So that's now. Now, again, be aware of the susceptibilities of your plants. I touched a little bit about viburnums earlier and how they really are suffering, especially the smoothleaf viburnums, like any of the dentatum types. They have the viburnum leaf beetle. It just came into the area. It's been 4 years now. And what happens, the eggs are laid in the tips of the branches. They will hatch in June. The larvae come out and they can actually strip a plant of all their leaves in 3 to 5 days. So you either have to spray with insecticide. I like to have mine prepared with the systemic, like the tree and shrub, or both either the Bonide or the Bayer Advanced, or the Bio Advanced, and that stays in. And when those larvae hatch, if they start feeding on the leaves, they get killed. If you don't do that, they eat all the leaves. They finish feeding in 6 weeks. They drop to the ground, burrow into the ground, and then they come back 6 weeks later as adults and do the same thing to the plant and eat all the leaves off, and then lay eggs all over it. So, so be aware, be really aware of the viburnums, and, be sure and protect them. Now, okay, we're going. Okay. Oh, now if you've got rhododendrons and azaleas, now is the time to use the soil sulfur on them, and that's 1 cup per each plant, and sprinkle it underneath on top. But you can sprinkle this. This needs to be on the soil. So move the mulch away, put it on the soil, and then move the mulch back. Then you can put your fertilizer down and either holly tone for the rhododendrons and azaleas, or you want to do the bud and bloom booster, just to really give them a good shot of that phosphorus. Okay, so that's good. I think I'm getting there. Trees love to be fertilized. Holly tone is excellent. If the trees, you want to do this now, do it April, May, and June. And for trees, and you can see the recommendation is on the back. What I love is for established trees, established shrubs. For trees, it's 1 pound. And this product is 3 cups to the pound. So it's 1 pound per inch of trunk diameter. So you measure the diameter of the trunk, and if it's 6 inches, you're going to use 6 pounds, usually like a 4, and then you're sprinkling that. If I'm a tree, you're going to measure out to where the ends of the branches are, draw a line down to the ground, and then draw a circle. And you're going to spread however many pounds that is all over, even if it's on top of the grass, on the ground, and water it in. And that's the perfect thing for the trees. And let me see. Oh, the other thing you want to do is on, around the trees and the shrubs, is if you had all the weeds cleared up, consider using the preen on them so they don't have any weeds that come back through the growing season. And I think I have done it. So stay around, because we're going to answer the questions. I miss you all so much. I'm so happy that you've come to do our virtual learning center, and keep in touch with us. Check our websites. We're doing all kinds of fun things. We're selling over the phone for pickup, curbside pickup, or deliveries. And we're also doing all kinds of online sales. So keep in touch with us, okay? And thank you so much for tuning in. And now stay on, I'm gonna answer your questions. I have my lovely assistants getting the questions for me right now. Okay.
Do you use both mulch and compost?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, mulch and compost kind of get switched back and forth. So one of the confusing things is like the Cottonwood Compost. You can use that as a soil additive to add organic matter, and you can also use it as a mulch. So that's, I apologize for that confusion. And like the pine bark mulch, that's usually used as a mulch only, except for things like rhododendrons and azaleas. And then you mix that in with the soil to have a more acidic root zone and have a well-drained root zone. So I'm sorry for that confusion, but yeah, that is a little misunderstanding. Yeah, hope that helps. Next one.
What about fertilizing rhododendrons? Do we need to fertilize evergreens in the spring?
Yes, evergreens you want to fertilize in the spring, just at the time that new growth is coming out. So you can do that now, April 15th, May 15th, and then June 15th. And the best for evergreens is the holly tone. Now, Dr. Earth also has one for acidic plants, but we always go with the holly tone. I stay really loyal to the holly tone. And this is also good for the trees, for our plants, because our soil is so alkaline. Anytime you add sulfur, you can lower that pH, and all the nutrients are more available then. Good question. Okay. Oh, but I do have to tell you something. For rhododendrons and azaleas, it's better to wait until they finish flowering before you give them fertilizer, because the new growth, the new buds are right under the flower bud. So if this is my stem right here, and that's a flower bud, there are leaf buds right below the flowers. If you give them fertilizer too soon, those leaves start growing, and then they pop the bud off, and it aborts the flower. We don't want that. Okay, great question.
Someone wants to know if this can be ordered for curbside pickup.
Sure, any of these can be ordered for curbside pickup, and you just pick up the phone and we'll place the order. When we also have the list of all these plants that is going to be about. Were we going to have that online? Yeah, we have the outline with all the details that I've just given you, but you kind of have to read through to get all the names of the products. But I put the list together, so it's like a shopping list, okay? And then all of our people on the phones have that list, so you can just say, hey, I saw Jennifer and she was talking about this, about the ground cover, and they'll say, oh yeah, it must be this. So everyone's prepared now, okay? Thank you.
And you can also find the list with links in it at the bottom of the email we sent last night. It's linked, and then you can click on all the links there.
Did you all hear that? That's my behind the scenes brilliant woman. Okay, next question.
If I mulch my garden soon, will the plants still come up from under the mulch? My peonies have grown very large, but they have a very few blooms. Any recommendations to get more blooms?
Oh, well, okay. Yes, you want to use, give them bud and bloom booster. Give them the bud and bloom booster, and do that now. And it could be, though, that it's not in enough sunlight. If the area's gotten shadier because trees have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, that could be what's impacting your peonies. But try fertilizing and see if that helps. Good question.
What is the best to use on flowers, specifically zinnia and dahlia?
You know what? A lot of people are addicted to using that hose-in sprayer. I'm not going to use the name because I don't like it, but I like either the rose and flower fertilizer. And again, it's 1 cup for every 10 square feet. So if you have a planting bed that's 5 feet long, you just sprinkle a cup every, along a 2-foot section of it, and it lasts for 2 months. So you can actually not spend every week going out and doing that liquid fertilizer. Just do that. Another one that's excellent is that bud and bloom booster. That's phenomenal for all the annuals. I mean, it's phenomenal. You'll love that. It's good for roses too. Okay, next question.
What is the best for oak trees that have chlorosis?
Oh, okay. The best for the oak trees is you want to use the sulfur. Put the sulfur down underneath it. Fertilize them with holly tone, and do that now. And if you can get the fertilizer with the sulfur, that'll acidify it before the leaves are forming. So while the leaves are forming, then they can get the right amount of nutrient. If you wait till after they formed and they're already kind of yellowish, the newer leaves will become green, but the old ones won't. So get that fertilizer and that sulfur down now, just as they're starting to form those buds. That's a great question. Thank you. Okay.
What is best to keep squirrels from eating the rhododendron buds?
Okay, plant seed is the best, for that. But if you don't want to discolor them, then use the Repelsol, but spray it once a week. Be really diligent about spraying once a week just to keep the squirrels off of them. Okay.
When/how often should we fertilize our trees with holly tone?
Okay. It's recommended to do it at the beginning of the growing season, just as they're making their leaves. So that's April, May. If you only want to do it twice, April and May is the most important. June also helps, but April, May, and then you want to do it in October at the time when they would be forming roots, when the soil is still warm but the night temperatures are cool. It helps them to form the roots a year in advance. So if we have a cold, wet spring, the plants aren't sitting there shivering and not forming the roots and then going into the growing season with a deficit. Great question. Excuse me. Pardon me.
That was the last question we have. One just came in. Oh, that was a thank you. Any other questions? Does anyone want to send us? We're happy to answer anything.
Everybody, oh, here's another one.
Do plants grow up through mulch?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, you can't have it too deep. If you have it more than 2 inches, sometimes it can stunt the growth. So, don't go more than 2 inches, and plants will come right through it. Now, there's a rule. If you have evergreen leaves and evergreen plants, you never want to mulch over those. So things like hellebores, things like ligularia, and heuchera, don't mulch over those. You want to leave a ring about 6 inches. And with the trees and shrubs, you never want to mulch right up next to the trunk. You want to leave a ring of about 6 inches away from the trunks and the stems, and just have the soil, and then have the 2 inches out over the root zone. That was a great question to lead into that. Thank you.
Should you mulch your flower garden?
I think it's good. When you mulch the flower garden, number one, you're keeping the moisture more consistent. You don't go through the dry spells in between waterings, and then it also keeps the temperature more consistent. Now, after saying that, you want to be cautious, because what's nice is our soil warmed up really well. So a lot of the springs, like last spring and the spring before, it stayed so cold and so wet. I was discouraging people from mulching because it would keep the soil wetter and slow the plants down. This spring's been really nice. Plants are waking up beautifully. So it's completely safe if you want to go ahead and put your mulch down right now. Good question. Thanks so much.
I'm starting a veggie/herb garden for the first time, full sun, and I have 10x2 garden bed with a bunny fence. What veggies/herbs are the best for a beginner? Example, easiest to grow. Thank you. Should we use Sluggo on our lawn? That's a separate, sorry.
Okay, with the vegetables, it's hard to tell you what to grow because it depends on what you like to eat. So that's how you decide. What do you like to eat? If you love having a tomato, a good tomato, you can get tomatoes, but don't put the tomatoes in until May 15th. But things like, I think a lot of people love lettuces. They like to have fresh lettuce, and they have spinach. I love kale, so I always have kale in my garden. I like sugar snap peas. Now is a perfect time, just plant those. Radishes are so easy and so fun. And they're so fun if you have kids to pull them. And then carrots are a little tricky, but they're fun. So, so whatever you like to eat, start with that, and then add on later. And then herbs too. Start what you like most. I can't live without thyme. You have to have thyme, because if you don't know what to put in a stew, you just add thyme, and then you look like a great cook. So I always have to have thyme, rosemary. I love sage. I have to have basil and cilantro, but those basil and cilantro are warm season lovers. They hate it when it's cold, and they are offended when it gets cold. So don't be tempted to put any basil and cilantro in early. And if you have any other questions about the vegetable garden, call us here and we'll answer more specifically. Great question. Good luck. And then the other one was Sluggo. Mm-hmm. It was a Sluggo question.
On your lawn. Should you use it on your lawn?
You know what? I sprinkle Sluggo out about 2 feet out around from my hosta beds, because during the daytime, the slugs go out from the hostas into the lawn. And if there's Sluggo there, they'll eat the Sluggo and you'll reduce the populations. So what I do with Sluggo, I start sprinkling it around May 15th. I do it 2 weeks after that, May 30th, and then June 15th. And it usually really reduces the populations, but then I do it again in July when all the eggs can hatch. When we have a hot, humid summer, the eggs hatch. So then do it in July, and then August 1st and August 15th. And that usually really controls your slug populations. Great question. Okay.
Can I do Scott's #1 and Gubax at the same time?
Yes, you can do Scott's #1 on for seeding and grub eggs on the exact same day. Don't mix them in the same spreader. They're different sizes of particles. So you have to do 2 applications, but you can do them exactly the same day. Not a problem at all.
Can you give us the dates for the 4 steps of lawn care again? Thanks.
Sure. Okay. And this is for fertilizer, and we say it's around the holidays, and usually it's Easter, but Easter varies, you know. So April 15th, I know that's tax day. That's not really a holiday, but April 15th, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Halloween. And then you can do it on those dates, and then in like 2 weeks afterwards, and still be within the right timeline. Does that help? I know that helps. That's always helped a lot of the customers I've worked with over the years.
Should we use Hollytone on evergreens?
Yes, that Hollytone is designed for evergreens, rhododendrons, azaleas, all the evergreens. And you know, but it's so interesting that Espoma thinks that we are really a funny people here, because we sell more Hollytone, I think, than anyone of their companies, because our soil is so alkaline. You can use this on any plant out in your yard. In fact, I go back and forth where I'll use Hollytone on everything in the yard one year, and then I use the specific fertilizers the next year. And I just go back and forth and back and forth. You cannot do anything wrong with Hollytone. Yeah.
How do you keep the moss, etc., off kale?
Oh, okay. On kale and edible crops, like leafy crops like that, there's a great product from the Bonite company, and it's called tomato and vegetable insecticide, and it's an earth-friendly natural. It's with sulfur. Sulfur actually prevents any fungal problems. It also kills any spider mites, and then it's also got an insecticide in it that it's derived from an organically grown daisy plant, and it's a pyrethrin, and you spray it one day and you can harvest 24 hours later. And what happens if you spray late in the afternoon, the next morning when the sun comes out, then it burns the residue away, so there's no residue. So it's good to eat the leafy vegetables that way. So it's really good. So, and do that at least once a week, and that keeps those moth caterpillars away.
That is the last question we have. Does anyone else have a question? One just came in. Bishop's weed, tried herbicide last year, still alive. Trying black plastic this year. Any other suggestions?
Well, I don't know what herbicide that you use. We've got some really neat herbicides that are made with. There's a new one that replaces the Roundup, you know, the glyphosate, and it's made from maleic hydrazide, which is derived from apples, and it actually kills the top of the plant and the roots. The problem with bishop's weed, and you know why it's called bishop's weed, because it is so aggressive it would cause a bishop to cuss, and that's the old story. But you spray it, something that will be taken in with the leaves and translocate down to kill the roots. So try, there's the 2 products we have. One is called Natria, Natria, and the other is Weed Beater FE, and that's an iron phosphate, but use the one with the maleic hydrazide, okay? And that'll kill the roots.
Is it okay with kids in the yard? Same one.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't want to spray when the kids are there because you don't want them to get wet with it. But once it's dried, it's completely safe. And it's safe for pets too. I mean, kids and pets.
Awesome. Any more questions? Oh. How should I prepare my vegetable planter boxes right now?
Okay, with the vegetable planter boxes, I like to add some more organic matter, but Dr. Earth makes a phenomenal, I don't have a sample in here, but they make a phenomenal, it's like a vegetable oil, vegetable gardening soil, and it's got all the wonderful nutrients in it and wonderful organic matter. And I just top my planter beds off with that every season. I usually put 2 inches of it on, and it does the trick. So you can use that, and then use the vegetable, the tomato, vegetable, and herb fertilizer, and you'll have great crops.
What keeps skunks away?
Oh, okay. One of the best skunk ones is the Repelsol. And then you use with skunks, you would use the granular form of this, and you sprinkle it around the perimeter of the yard. Skunks tend to track along the foundations of the houses, so sprinkle the granular form of Repelsol all around the house, and that keeps them away. That really keeps them away. Great question. I didn't even think about skunks. Usually skunks is a fall problem that we're always messing with, but they're here in the spring too.
How to treat arbs and when? Prune off brown growth, question mark?
Okay, with the arborvitae, you want to treat them with hollytone. Now, any of the brown that is in the center of the plant is normal. And as the new growth is coming, any of the growth that is 2 to 3 years older that's in the center of the plant, it naturally turns brown, just drops to the ground, and it can be used as a mulch. But any of the tips that have been browned, or if they had a broken branch, this is when you prune them off. And do it now before the new growth comes. So, so get your pruning shears and you kind of reach down in, and never prune more than half of the foliage off a branch. So if my hand was the branch right here, and my fingers are where the green part is, I would come in and I would only cut half of that off, and then new growth would stimulate, from buds below that. Great question.
With Repelsol, will Repelsols be okay if you have a dog?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, always follow that rule that spray when it's wet, keep the dog, and then once it's dried, it's great. I wouldn't spray in an area where the dog always uses the bathroom, because that's his area, don't mess with his area. Okay.
If we have a plant we don't know what it is, what is the best way to reach out to the Chalet team?
Oh, that's so easy. Take a photo. We all have these phone things that takes photos, and you can email it to our webpage, or you can also email it to jenniferb@chaletnursery.com. Now, all of our emails are our first name, our last initial at Chalet Nursery, smushed together, ChaletNursery.com, and send it, and I can also do diagnostics that way. I can usually tell what's going on. If I need to see a sample, I can email you back and say, hey, need to bring a sample in, or mail in a sample, and I can put it on the microscope then. So take advantage of that. That's what we're here for.
I have so much moss growing in my garden. What can I do?
You know what? We had such wet springs and wet summers from the wet springs for the last 4 years that the mosses have really gotten a foothold. Some people love mosses. I'm one of those people that loves mosses. If you don't like it, it's easy to peel it off, and then we have a granular moss control and a liquid moss control. If the moss is near like concrete driveways and sidewalks, you want to use the liquid, because it doesn't have iron in it. The granular is nice because it lasts longer, so you can sprinkle the granular, and it kills the moss and keeps it from coming back. But it also, because it has iron in it, can stain driveways. So be forewarned about that. But both are good.
We have arborvitae that have brown branches on the bottom fourth of each shrub. Prune those, question mark?
Oh, the quarter of the shrub is totally brown up. You know what? I would hold off on doing any major pruning until after the new growth comes, because there's a chance that you have dormant buds the inside, and it sounds to me like that could just be damaged from salt. So I would wait another 4 weeks before you do any major pruning. What you might want to do is send a photo to jenniferb@chaletnursery.com. I would feel better giving you advice after seeing a photo. Okay? Great, thanks.
What about the granular version? The dog might eat it. I think she's referring to the Repellent.
Of the moss or the Repelsol? The moss killer.
Repelsol.
Oh, the Repelsol. No, they won't touch it. They won't touch it. It'll irritate their noses, and they'll just go away. They might sneeze, and they'll just go away. Yeah, it's not. They won't eat it. Not at all. Not at all.
She said, "Yay!"
Yay! Good. Okay.
Any more questions?
You all have been so wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think, I've kept you way past the school time, but thank you for staying around with your questions, and keep watching for more of these. We'll probably do more of these. We realize everyone is really enjoying it, and I had fun too. And I love seeing you all out there. Thank you so much. Bye now.